Hi, and welcome to One Home, One Planet 2020. My name is Rebecca Carlson, and I will be your host for the coming 2 days as we look together to inspire real action to tackle some of the biggest challenges the world is currently facing. We have all been impacted during this unprecedented time. The pandemic has shown how fragile the world we live in really is and emphasized the need for resilience of people, business, and our economic systems to be strengthened. And we are also still facing other daunting social and environmental challenges, from the climate crisis to injustice. Only a decade stands between now and 2030. This will be the most important decade in the history of humankind. But despite the challenges that we are still facing, it is still within our hands to build back better and to create the future that we want. That is why IKEA created One Home, One Planet. We are excited to having you joining us for an action-oriented event with purpose-driven doers and influencers and some of the key leaders of IKEA. And together we look forward to breaking down barriers, to solving key people and planet challenges that are within the sphere of influence of IKEA. We're only minutes away from our first session, where you will meet Halla Tóasdóttir, CEO of B-Team, Heggenes, CEO of IKEA Foundation, Pia Heidenmark Cook, Chief Sustainability Officer of Ingka Group, and Julia Kumari Drapkin, founder of ISeeChange. And don't forget to come back for our later sessions today and tomorrow. Today, at 3 p.m. Central European Standard Time, Jesper Brodin, CEO of Ingka Group, will be joined in conversation with Christiana Figueres, founder of Global Optimism and architect of the Paris Agreement, and Mark Carney, United Nations Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance and former Governor for Bank of England. And tomorrow, 10 to 3, Central European Standard Time, Jessy Tolkan from Purpose Labs will be leading a conversation with Juvencio Mastu, CFO and Deputy CEO of Ingka Group, Rebecca Marmot, Chief Sustainability Officer of Unilever, Melati Wijsen, co-founder of Bye Bye Plastic Bags, and the climate activist Jerome Foster II. Throughout all sessions, both today and tomorrow, our speakers will take questions from you in the audience. So remember to use the chat function to share your reflections and also to ask any questions that you might have. I look forward to seeing you again in a few minutes as we kick off the One Home, One Planet 2020. It is now time for our first panel, and I also want to say an extra warm welcome to everyone who is now also joining us via LinkedIn. Welcome. So it's time for our first panel. As the world we live in becomes much more complex, our challenges become even more wicked. Wicked problems referring to the challenges that are so intricate that there is no single simple solution. But interestingly, we have a lot of solutions also for these much more wicked problems, originating at different levels and focusing on multiple dimensions, from systems to organizational to personal level. So let's talk about solutions now that are already successfully being implemented and that could enable an even bigger positive impact when scaled up. Our first panelist is Halla Tóasdóttir. She has run for president on Iceland, is a 2-time TED Talker and a co-founder of Reykjavik University. The New Yorker has called her a living emoji of sincerity, and now she is the CEO of B-Team. Halla, we are so happy to have you. When you assumed the leadership of B-Team, you said it was time to transform ourselves and the system that we work in. Could you elaborate on what you meant by that?
Yes, I mean, thank you, Rebecca, and everyone for tuning in. We are now facing the most challenging moment in our lifetimes, and successfully meeting it will definitely take the many people unleashing transformative leadership in themselves, organizations changing their cultures and their ways of working. But last but not least, will take economic system change, because doing business as usual, as we have been doing for the last 50 years, has left us with a burning planet, melting ice caps, oceans full of plastics, unsustainable levels of inequality, low trust, challenges in our democracies, and essentially a broken social contract. Now, the B-Team was founded to challenge and tackle business as usual, and our leaders have very courageously come up with a better way of being in service of the well-being of people and planet. But we are well aware that we are not moving at the speed and scale that we need. So we need to confront some important shifts in our economy. We need shifts in all of our systems, from our natural systems that are facing breakdowns to education to our political systems. There's plenty of challenges, but perhaps the most important one is actually to shift our economic system because of the challenges it has left us with. It is essentially broken, and it is no longer serving humanity or any life on Earth. And so we constructed this economic system 50 years ago, essentially based on the theory of one man called Milton Friedman, who said the only purpose of business was to serve its shareholders. Now it's time to put that to rest and actually make some really important transitions and transformations happen in our economic system. This is socially constructed, so we can reimagine and reset an economic system that actually serves us. But it will take a radical collaboration between the private sector, between governments, between citizens to get there. But essentially, trying to put it simply, we see 3 shifts that have to happen. We need to redefine the time horizon that we have had in business and in our economy. We need to move away from the short-termism that Paul Polman, the chair of the B-Team, so courageously confronted when he took over Unilever in 2009 and said he would do away with quarterly reporting. We need to start really focusing the time on long-term value creation. And we believe that engaging with the next generation is going to help us think much more about our accountability and our ability to leave a better world for them. So the generational lever is an important one in redefining our time horizon. Secondly, we need to redefine the definition of success in business. We have been measuring financial profit in business. We've been measuring GDP growth on the national levels, but we now need to actually measure what matters, the impact of people and planet. And last but not least, we need to redefine the purpose of business from shareholder primacy, the Milton Friedman theory. We need to, with respect, put that to rest now and start to account for all stakeholders. And this is the work of this decade. We need a decade of delivery where we work together like never before to manage a just, fair, and inclusive transition to an economy that serves the well-being of all life. This is the action that we need today to create a better tomorrow. And we can do it, but only if we come together, because no one actor has the answers or can do this alone.
Thank you so much for that, getting us the overview. And of course, there is no silver bullet, but could you share with us some concrete examples of that type of more systems solutions that are already being put in place or that you want to see more like concrete system solutions?
Absolutely. Let me focus on three different examples. First, we see companies increasingly stepping up, and I would like to point to the company Natura & Co from Brazil that owns famous labels like Body Shop and Avon now. Basically, the company has led by brave action and has a very bold vision of commitment to life. But they've taken this vision beyond their own organization and now are running a very multi-sectoral or multi-collaborative initiative called Possible Amazon. Because as we all know, we're facing the fires in the Amazon yet again this year. And so last year, they brought together private sector, public sector, and civil society and basically rejected the view that we have to choose between economic development and doing right by communities and protecting nature, and are choosing to work in collaborative ways to find solutions to do both. This is a very good example how a company brings together multiple stakeholders to solve an issue that doesn't just face this company, but actually the fires in Amazon are of great concern to all of us. And we don't have to make the choice between growing our economies and actually doing right by the environment. And they're choosing to work on solutions together. Second example I would like to mention, it takes me back 11 years after the infamous financial meltdown in Iceland, where most of us, we became infamous for being irresponsible bankers. But what happened in the post that crisis for us is that we came together with different people from all walks of life and co-created a national assembly where 1,500 Icelanders gathered and created a new vision and a set of values that they wanted to guide the reset after that incredible crisis that Iceland faced. And while we don't have all the answers yet in Iceland, I'm convinced that unleashing that leadership and creating the space for dialogue and co-creation actually led to some incredible progress for our country, even if we still have a lot of issues to solve. Last but not least, I want to mention a very current project called Imperative 21, where business-led organizations and allies from civil society, artists, and people from all around the world are coming together to call for an economic reset. We basically think that leading by brave action in our own companies, in our own lives is important, but it's not enough if we have an economic system that doesn't reward and incentivize the right things. And so together, all of these allies have now been co-creating globally what are some of the imperatives for this economic reset. And on the 50th anniversary of Milton Friedman's shareholder supremacy theory, we are going to stand together all over the world and call for a reset. And it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take all of us. But we, just like we socially constructed the economy that has failed us, we can construct together the economy that can serve us. And when I say serve us, I'm referring to all of humanity and all life on Earth.
Thank you very much. And Daniela, do we have any quick questions for Halla?
Absolutely. Hey, Halla, great to see you. Yeah, there are tons of questions coming in, and I would love to ask a couple of them, at least one to you. And one of the questions are, what is your advice on guiding businesses to deliver to both purpose and performance?
Yeah, I don't think it is a choice between one or the other. I think it's very important to say that we should achieve profit with principles or profit through purpose. So our economies, our planet, our people, it's all interdependent on each other. So my guidance is do away with the either or thinking and start embracing the interdependence of our challenges and the interdependence of all of the stakeholders that need to work together to solve them. And the first step is actually commitment to be part of this, because no one has all of the answers today. And I think organizations and their leaders need to move away from thinking they know all the answers and have all the answers and move into what I would call a learner culture and embrace both the courage that it takes to reimagine and rethink how we can do things, because we can do things differently and in service of all life, but also to embrace the humility that no one person, one country, one company has the answers to these great big challenges we're facing. And without humility, we can't bring people together on this journey. So courage and humility should be the guiding lights. And together, the answers are there if we choose to go and find them and co-create them together.
Thank you so much, Halla. So our next guest is Per Heggenes. He is the CEO of IKEA Foundation, one of the largest foundations in the world. He's a tireless advocate for children living in the world's poorest countries. And in 2012, he was appointed to the UN Commission on Life-Saving Commodities for Women and Children by the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Per, we're so happy to have you. And one of the goals of IKEA Foundation is to enable families to achieve a better, more prosperous life, while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And that is a vision that will, of course, require a lot of solutions on many different levels, including the systems level. So I would love to just give you a few minutes to elaborate.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, and hello, everyone. So when I think about system change, I actually think about Ingvar Kamprad, because here's a man who turned his back on the usual business approach, the maximizing shareholder return, the Milton Friedman approach, as Halla was referring to, and instead put the many people at the heart of his business. It's a fundamental system change from a business perspective. And at the IKEA Foundation, that's what we're trying to do for the many families living in poverty, because we're working to create a better future for the many children, and we believe the key to that better future is really ensuring that families have both financial stability and a healthy planet. So we spent the past decade looking at various systems that hold people back from earning the money they need to support their families. We have looked at the systems that pollute our planet and harm children's health, and we have looked at the systems that prioritize the few people who have amassed tremendous wealth, and often at the expense of the many who have little. So we get a lot of inspiration and energy from our partners who are devoted to creating a better future for the many children. And I appreciate the opportunity here today to share some of their work. So let me start by just reminding ourselves that right now the communities are facing the dual challenges of climate change and COVID-19. And we believe that this is really the moment to acknowledge that life should not return to the way it was before COVID hit. Instead, we should ask ourselves, how can we do things differently? How can we build back better so we can create a better future for generations to come? So as an example, our partner Women Business is calling on businesses and governments to build back better. So through this partnership, we support programs that particularly help push businesses contribute towards the Paris Agreement goals and decarbonizing entire production lines, transportation, buildings, and the finance sector, some of the world's biggest carbon emitters that threaten all of us. Unfortunately, people already living in poverty are the ones suffering the most from climate change, as we know. So one of the most powerful ways we can help families improve their incomes while we're also protecting the planet is through renewable energy. So the traditional energy sector takes a top-down approach to providing energy, and often not clean energy. But our partners like Selco Foundation, for example, put people living in poverty at the very heart of their work. Selco Foundation works with communities to discover how they can use energy to improve education, livelihoods, and health. And we're also developing partnerships to help reform the agri-food sector so that it is both people and planet positive. Our partners such as Common Land are helping the sector focus on circular regenerative agriculture that protects the planet and helps families increase their incomes. So we are working to create a new system that will make the current system hopefully seem obsolete. And we need to make sure that while all of this is happening, no one is left behind. So we work with our grantees, our partners, but also with IKEA to support refugee livelihoods and enable people affected by forced displacement, people who were displaced because they couldn't stay where they are and they have to leave their homes. We help them to break the vicious cycle of poverty and bring back purpose in their lives. So we believe in empower the many people to change the world. So our partner, purpose, which is actually represented here today by Jessy Tolkan, who we hear from a little later, is really energetically mobilizing communities in big cities to call for greener communities and demand better air legislation. So I encourage you to hear Jessy's session later today to hear more and experience her tremendous energy for the cause. So finally, all things comes in threes, doesn't it? And so let me end with one little alteration to the wonderful One Home, One Planet by adding one simple addition. It's one home, one planet, and one purpose. So because the IKEA Foundation operates with the same ambition and purpose as IKEA, but on questions where our aim is to reduce inequality so that everyone has an equal chance. So right now, we all have a chance to do things better and a chance to get things right. I know that we can do it, but only if we work together, as Halla pointed out several times. It's togetherness, it's working together that makes it possible for us to take down some barriers, find new and improved ways of doing things, and create a healthier future for children, which is really our main purpose at the foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Per. And I would now like to introduce Pia Heidenmark Cook. She's the Chief Sustainability Officer at Ingka Group. She has worked with, lectured and studied sustainability-related topics since 1996. And now she leads the Ingka Group sustainability team, as well as experts across the retail, shopping center and customer fulfillment parts of the business. Welcome, Pia. An organization is, of course, also its very own system. And of course, the bigger the organization, the bigger the responsibility. But at the same time, also, the bigger the opportunity to enable a positive impact. So how do you act on that responsibility at IKEA?
Thank you for a very good question. And before talking about the organization, having worked with sustainability since '96, of course, I see a lot of progress and I really see momentum, and it's really gives hope and optimism to see coworkers and customers and also many business leaders to really step up and not having sustainability as a nice to have, but more a must to have. So overall, a lot to be positive about. But then, of course, being a mother of two girls, also a lot to be worried about. We have, and everyone has said it already, but we have almost like a perfect storm of a health crisis and an economic crisis, an inequality crisis, and, of course, the climate and biodiversity crisis. And I would also say that we have a hug crisis, because I really miss meeting people and having you all here instead of only being with you and Daniela, even though you're lovely. So I think there's a lot of things happening. So instead of worrying too much, then going into what can we do? And we are in a perfect opportunity, in a perfect time, and I would say once in a lifetime position right now to reset the system and build back better rather than just going back to what we had. And of course, IKEA, having been around for over 75 years, having 0.1% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, if we take our total value chain, of course we have a role to play. And what we do, we look at 3 different areas. One is how can we enable and inspire 1 billion people to live within the boundaries of the planet, really through our offer, the know-how, the solutions, the range that we offer. Then the second one, how can we be climate positive and circular across the entire value chain, where we have committed to science-based targets and we've signed up to the 1.5 pledge. And then the last, but I would say the most important, is really how can we make a difference to the many people that we touch across the value chain and in our communities, where equality is one of our key drivers, where we really want to take a lead on equality.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I also totally share that feeling of that it's so cool that it's now. Like, I was born the same year as the term sustainable development. And when I retire, global greenhouse gas emissions should be 0 since a few years back. So, I mean, it's really our challenge to solve. And I wonder if you could also elaborate on more concrete actions, like what are you doing? And I also especially enjoy that you want to step up and take even more of a leadership position also when it comes to systems change. And I think this is also what needs to be done a lot more, right? Like businesses stepping forward, but also like bringing many more along with them. So could you share like concrete examples of what you're doing, and also that like systems perspective leadership that you're going for?
I think being big is a huge responsibility, but it's also a big opportunity. So we touch a lot of industries and sectors when we look at our total value chain. So when we change and when we put demands for others to change, we can create a sectorial change and also system change, both upstream and downstream our value chain. So we can't do it alone, but we can do it together. And I think in these three areas, if I take healthy and sustainable living, we can't do it if we don't create solutions. And we can't do it if we don't co-create with our coworkers who meet our customers on the shop floor, but also a lot with our digital suppliers to create the solutions online. We can't do it if we don't work together with our suppliers to really create these solutions. Shifting to LED in 2015, yes, deciding we won't sell incandescent anymore was a big step and a scary step, and it required courage from us to take that step. So that's one thing that has sent a signal. When we, for climate positive, decided to produce more renewable energy than we consume across our own operations, that was back in 2009, and it wasn't that prevalent with wind and sun as it is today, and it was a different cost structure. But if we hadn't acted then, where would we have been today? So we have also sent a strong signal to those producing renewable energy that we are a big actor and we actually believe that the future needs to be renewable and not fossil. So there's a lot of things we can do. And then, of course, when it comes to the people side, we touch a lot of lives across the value chain. So going in all in for equality, where we have a 50-50 already, gender equality, and we're aiming for an equal pay, equal gender pay by 2022. That hopefully also sends a signal that this is important. And if we can do it, and we are a company, we have stakeholders and shareholders, if we can do it, others can do it. But I think the important is we can't do it alone, and we need to do it together, but we need to act now. We can't sit and wait and think someone else will have the solution. So I think that's a key part, and I hope that's what we will really discuss and do during the collabs, is how can we do this together?
Thank you so much. So I think, Daniela, there should be questions, I assume, for Halla, Per, Pia.
Yeah, there are actually tons of questions. I don't even know where to start. But I think I will start with you, Pia. One of the questions that has come in is, how will the COVID-19 crisis impact IKEA's sustainability ambitions?
Thank you. It's a very good question. I mean, everyone has been impacted by COVID, and I mean, everyone knows someone who's been impacted in their families. Of course, we've been impacted, but I think not in the same way as you might think. It actually has strengthened our work and made us much more focused that this is not a nice to have, this is something we have to do. And we have goals towards 2030, and wherever we can make them and move them forward, we will, because the crisis is here and the crisis is now. So I think the health crisis just makes even more people reflect on what can we do and what does this mean. And a lot of people have been in cities where for the first time in 20, 30 years, they've been able to see much further. They've been able to breathe the air. And then you want to go back to the old when we know that we can do a bit better. We have solutions. And if you take healthy and sustainable living, the searches for how to live a sustainable life went up 4,000% in March and April. So people are really starting to reflect, what can I do? It's about my health, it's about my family's health, and then of course it's about the planet's health.
Thank you so much, Pia. Do we have time for more questions?
Yeah, I think we can take another one.
That's amazing. Okay, this one is for you, Per. Good to see you. And also, the question is, it's recognized that the younger generation may suffer the most from COVID-19. How will IKEA Foundation support the youth opportunities, particularly in the hard-pressed developing countries?
Well, first of all, let me say that COVID has been quite a challenge for the foundation and all our partners. We have 130 partners and 180 programs around the world, and every partner has seen real difficulties and real changes in how they operate and how they have to operate in order to deal with the short-term consequences of COVID, and at the same time try to carry through the programs that they have set out to do at the outset. So what we see in the communities we operate, of course, the majority of the population in those communities are young people, and we see an explosive growth in the number of people in sub-Saharan African countries, for example. About 12 million jobs will have to be created every year in order to create livelihood and opportunities for people to feed their families. And that's been the biggest impact in the COVID situation, because it's been in the beginning less about the health problem and more about the fact that the informal economy, which dominates the economy of these countries, has stopped because people can't move around and go about their business as they usually did. So they have no money and no income to pay for food, and they have no income to pay for rent, and the economy has broken down in these countries, and that's of course impacted young people, particularly who are struggling to find a job in the first place. So our partners in different levels that we operate with, different types of partners in the different portfolio areas that we work. We work with those partners to help bridge this difficult situation and secure as many jobs as possible, and help these young people come through this difficult time and come back stronger than where they were before.
Thank you so much, Per. I'll leave it to you, Rebecca, to continue.
Thank you. Big positive change can, of course, also come from the local level, and it is time to look at an example of that. And we will meet Julia Kumari Drapkin. She has a beautiful story, a former anthropologist turned journalist, turned entrepreneur, founder and CEO of ISeeChange, that mobilizes people to share climate impact stories and microdata in order to inform and improve climate adaptation and infrastructure design. Julia, thank you so much for being here with us, and I would love to just give you a few minutes to share your story and tell us about the work that you do. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's wonderful to speak with you today. I've been impressed with IKEA's commitments to innovation, pay equity goals for 2020, and most of all, its sustainability goals. So how do we make climate decisions, the kinds that change lives? I'd like everyone to think about an important life decision you've made. Where you decided to live, what you decided to study, the house you decided to buy, the person you decided to love. Did any of you make that decision with a graph or a data visualization? No. And yet when it comes to acting on climate change in the next 10 years to avoid the worst impacts, that's what we want people to do. Experts march into the room with sea level rise or drought maps dripping in red, and they expect people to leave their homes, their families, or their livelihoods. But decision science tells us that decision-making happens across both halves of our brains. We are communicating climate change using only one half of the brain, our logic, linear data side. And we're missing a lot of details and opportunities on the other side to understand the lived experience of extreme weather and climate over time. Our personal stories are critical data and resilience empowerment tools. And that was something I learned as a really geeky young anthropologist. I studied farmers' almanacs of the ancient Maya. By documenting planting, rain cycles, and drought alongside historic events like migrations and violent political upheavals, the Maya better understood humanity's relationship to nature and how to prepare for the future. I later spent a decade as a climate science journalist. I covered the Asian tsunami in my ancestral home and Hurricane Katrina in my chosen home, both in the same year. And over I saw the same pattern. Traditional data and modeling fails to account for personal experience, block-by-block variations, and neighborhood context. Cities today are struggling to engage residents in making solutions, which erodes public trust, it misses valuable insights, and it costs us all time, money, and frustration. So we redesigned the traditional engagement process. ISeeChange, the company that I started, is a community dialogue platform that helps municipalities and engineers and scientists collaborate directly with residents to inform and co-design local climate solutions. We channel the knowledge and experience and natural power of residents to share their climate stories via phone or computer, and we sync that to local weather and sensor data. And our weather stories, starting with all the ones I saw this morning being shared in the OHOP chat, are the fastest way to connect with anyone anywhere in the world. And we can use those stories to design our world better. Here in New Orleans, in multi-million-dollar infrastructure projects, ISeeChange worked with residents to document disruptive flooding in areas that were never considered before. We gathered stories and measured how flooding impedes buses, trash pickup, and keeps children from playing in their yards because of pollution. ISeeChange insights led to major design changes that saved over $500,000 in redesign fees and doubled the flood storage capacity of the neighborhood. We've gone from a nice to have to a need to have, according to our first engineering clients. But more than data, our clients, cities, and engineers tell us they need risk education to generate public trust around climate infrastructure. And more than infrastructure, they also tell us they need behavior change to address climate risk. ISeeChange provides both. We turn public critics into public partners. But I want to go back to that one last one, behavior change. You remember those questions that I asked you just in the beginning of my talk? Those were life moments, life decisions. And life decisions are accompanied by life events. When you move into a new town or a new home or a dorm room, when you're buying a new kitchen table with your new fiance, or you're buying a new crib because you're a new parent, these are the moments that behavior science tells us create entirely new habits. And you all at IKEA know this. These are the behavior change cues we need to address climate change. When you move into a new home, there's an opportunity to completely re-envision how you use energy. When you start cooking dinners with someone, you might change the way you eat or manage food waste. And when you buy a crib, it's the moment when you see a piece of furniture's entire life cycle beyond yourself because you care more about the future than ever before. And if we don't catch those moments in time in those first few weeks, the chances are high that we get into routines we can't break out of easily in the future. And we all know the future is now. I'm working every day on behalf of my 5-year-old, who I hope doesn't wake up, who is going to inherit the world we make for him when he's 15. ISeeChange is a global platform. We host a community across 118 countries documenting algae blooms, sea level rise, urban heat, drought, wildfires, changes to forests and trees. And each ISeeChange post can become a seed to design a solution. Our community is majority women and youth, the demographics least represented in climate change decisions. And we're seeding a neighbor-to-neighbor, business-to-business global movement that is seeing changes together and making them. So check us out on ISeeChange.org, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thanks a lot, Halla, Per, Pia, and Julia.